January 13th, 2006, Argentina. The police received information that 5 thieves were robbing a bank, but the thieves' plan completely backfired and now all 5 were trapped inside the bank. The thieves had guns and they took 23 bank employees hostage. On the other hand, nearly 300 police officers had surrounded the thieves from all sides. But if the police made even the slightest mistake, it could cost the lives of 23 people. That's why the police called in Argentina's special force, the Falcon Group. Some commandos from the Falcon Group climbed onto the bank's roof and snipers from another building took aim at any thieves they could see. The police were just about to start their mission, but at that moment, they made a very big mistake. One of the thieves spots some commandos from the Falcon Group and angrily calls the police and says, "If you don't get the Falcon Group off the bank's roof, I'll start killing the bank employees one by one." This entire event was being broadcast live on TV, and all of Argentina was watching it. If anyone died in the encounter, all the responsibility could fall on the police. That's why the Falcon commandos had to come down from the bank's roof. But the thieves hadn't noticed the Falcon Group's snipers. Suddenly, the thieves make a strange demand. They tell the police, "Bring us 5 pizzas. 5 pizzas, and that too in the middle of a bank robbery." Maybe the thieves just wanted to eat something good before going to jail. Thinking this, the police went to get the pizzas. But when the police came back with the pizzas, the thieves weren't answering the phone. Did the thieves take someone's life before going to jail? Thinking this, the Falcon commandos broke down the bank's door and stormed inside, and without wasting any time, started evacuating the bank employees one by one. But there was a big problem here. The police didn't know who the bank employees were and who the thieves were, and after searching the entire bank, all they found in one corner were the thieves' guns. The thieves themselves had disappeared from the bank. Were any of the people the police evacuated from the bank actually thieves? If not, then where did the thieves disappear to? To find out, you'll have to go back a few years. The year was December 2001, when overnight people's money vanished from their bank accounts. Because Argentina was grappling with the worst economic crisis in its history. Inflation, unemployment and poverty had made people's lives miserable, and because of this, people there started withdrawing all their money from the banks, which led to Argentina's banks becoming bankrupt. But instead of fixing the economy, the government there introduced a policy that sparked riots across Argentina, the Corralito. Under this policy, no person in Argentina could withdraw more than 250 pesos from their bank account. In other words, the banks refused to give people their own money. But because of this, people's trust in the banks, everything was wiped out. The economy fell even further, and the value of money in the banks became almost worthless, like scraps of paper. Many people lost all the savings they had accumulated over their entire lives. While some people protested against this, taking to the streets and even rioting, others decided to take revenge on the banks. Robbing a bank is an art. These were the words of Fernando Araujo, the mastermind behind the entire bank robbery. And in September 2004, he began planning the bank robbery. His target was the Daria Bank in the city of Acassuso. First, Fernando started gathering all the information about the bank through his informant. In fact, there are 2 ways to rob a bank. The first way is when the bank is closed, that is, at night. And if you want to rob the bank at night, you'll have to dig a tunnel. That's why Fernando started planning to dig a tunnel. First of all, he would have to buy a house near the bank, and from that house, dig an underground tunnel, because all the lockers were in the bank's basement. But before this, Fernando had never even dug a hole, let alone a tunnel. What if, while digging the tunnel, it collapsed halfway through? That's why he went to inspect the land near the bank. He was standing in front of the bank, thinking about how to dig the tunnel. But just then, he noticed something strange. There was a metal plate beneath his feet. To find out what it was, he started following the metal plates and saw that every 10 meters, these metal plates had been laid out. After walking about a kilometer from the bank, he found himself in front of a river. It turned out that these metal plates were actually manholes made for access to the drain. This meant that there was already a huge drain beneath the bank. Without wasting any time, Fernando went inside the drain, and as soon as he went a little further, he realized that he could dig a tunnel from inside the drain all the way to the bank. But now the problem was that it was so dark inside the drain that nothing was visible. So how could a tunnel be dug from the drain to the bank? For that, measurements would have to be taken, and if anyone saw them taking measurements, the heist would be over before it even began. So, Fernando used a rather strange technique. The next day, he went to the main hall closest to the bank, taking a bicycle with him. Then, attaching a small hook to a measuring tape, he secretly slips it inside the main hall. After that, he counts how many times the bicycle tire rotates from the main hall to the bank. because he knows the circumference of the bicycle tire in meters and how many times the tire rotates from the main hall to the bank. This way, the distance from the main hall to the bank can be determined. Finally, he goes inside the drain to find out where the measuring tape is located. That's why Fernando now had the measurements from the bank to the main hall and from the main hall to the drain. On top of that, Fernando had never even dreamed that the cotangent formula he learned in school, he is going to use it while robbing the bank, because by using the cotangent formula, he has figured out at what angle and for how many meters the tunnel needs to be dug from the drain to the bank. But planning to dig the tunnel was one thing, and actually digging it all the way to the bank was another challenge, because when Fernando started digging the tunnel with a shovel, it took him several hours just to dig a hole the size of a bottle. So, with just a shovel and a pickaxe, this job was almost impossible. So he sold his car and bought a generator and a pneumatic drill to make digging the tunnel easier. But because he was using such expensive equipment, his money started running out after just a few days. He had realized that this job was beyond his capability, so now it was time to expand the gang. First, Fernando brings his school friend Sebastián Bolter, who was an engineer, into the gang. After that, he also includes Doc, Mario and Beto, who were already seasoned criminals. Now this game had become much bigger. What could have been a petty theft here? But now, this was about to become a major bank robbery. In the coming months, all the thieves started digging the tunnel together. On top of that, the 5 thieves always helped each other. If any problem arose, they would solve it together. This work went on for almost a year, and who knows how many people must have seen these thieves coming and going in the tunnel. But while working like this, one day the ground became very hard. They realized that there was now a wall in front of them, but they didn't know what was on the other side of the wall. Because if their calculations were even slightly off, instead of robbing the bank, they would accidentally end up in the basement of the neighboring house. But this was just the beginning of their problems, because there are motion sensors inside the bank. If the thieves made even the slightest movement, the alarm would go off and the police would arrive there within minutes. So how do you turn it off? That's why the thieves tried to make a special suit that won't trigger the motion sensors. But all their plans fell apart when they found out that all the lockers are inside a huge vault, and after the bank closes, the vault is also locked. So, how do you open the vault? Problems kept coming one after another. So, their idea of robbing the bank at night was completely ruined. And now, there was only one way left to rob the bank. To enter the bank with guns in broad daylight while it was open, take all the employees hostage, loot the vault before the police arrive, and then escape. But here, there was no room for error because every bank employee has some kind of button, and as soon as it's pressed, the police will arrive within minutes. So, they had to take control of the entire bank within just a few seconds. But even here, a very big problem was waiting for them. Because it takes 2 keys to open those lockers. One key is with the bank employee and the other key is with the locker owner. This means that even a bank employee couldn't open the bank lockers, and breaking open all the lockers would take several hours. So what should you do? They started to feel like all their hard work had gone to waste. All the money and time they had invested was now worthless. Fernando kept thinking about this day and night. But one day, a ray of hope appeared, and he came up with an idea that no one in the history of theft had ever thought of before. So, Fernando went to a nearby cyber cafe to find out whether anyone had ever committed this type of theft before. His plan was, what if both plans were combined together? Meaning, in broad daylight, when the bank is open, enter the bank with guns, take everyone hostage, and rob the bank. And when the police arrive, use the tunnel, not to get into the bank, but to get out of the bank. The plan was really good, but Fernando didn't want guns to be used in the bank robbery, so Thief 1 takes a huge risk. A risk where making a mistake means facing death head-on, that's what they decide. Because instead of real guns, they will use toy guns. Because if by mistake the thieves even accidentally fire a shot, then almost hundreds of police officers will start firing at them, so it won't even matter. Whether the thieves actually had guns or not won't make any difference. On top of that, he adds 2 more friends to his gang to make the robbery even easier. The thieves had planned everything with complete caution, which is why they had full confidence in their plan. And on January 13th, 2000, after almost 500 days of planning and 3,500 days of hard work, they begin to execute the robbery plan. At 7 in the morning, Saba, the engineer, enters the tunnel from the drain and waits for the other thieves at the wall. Now the rest of the thieves arrived at the bank with the stolen car. Beto and Doc were in the front, and in the car behind, Fernando sat alone. First, Beto and Doc enter the bank, but the security guard immediately spots them with the help of the CCTV, and just a few seconds after the thieves enter the bank, the alarm goes off. Now there was no turning back. Beto and Doc showed their guns and ordered the bank employees to lie down on the ground. On the other side, Mario and his accomplice Luis arrive in a car through the back door of the bank. Then, after parking the car, they go inside the bank to join Beto and Doc. Now it was Fernando's turn. He gets out of the car and goes inside the bank, but he left the car's indicator on. Now, just as Fernando had planned, every thief was following the plan exactly. Now it was the next one's turn, Mario. And Beto came down to the basement with a hostage, because there was a security guard's room there and the guard had a real gun. So through the glass window in the door, Mario tells the security guard to come out. But the security guard simply refused to come out, and this was a big problem because the thieves couldn't break through the basement wall with him there. So Beto forcefully throws the hostage against the door and Mario says, "I just got out of jail and I don't want to go back. I promise I won't kill you, so just come out quietly." The guard didn't know that the thieves only had toy guns. So the guard says, "I'm coming out, but don't do anything to the bank employee." The guard opens the room's door and surrenders himself to the thieves. But the thieves took the guard to the gate, took his phone and sent him out of the bank. They even gave him his gun back. By then, the police had arrived and surrounded the bank from all sides. So the thieves had all the cameras in the basement turned off, then went straight to the bank's parking lot and used the stolen car to block the back door of the bank so the police couldn't enter from there. And at around 12:30, Fernando gives Sebastián the order to break through the wall, who had been sitting in the tunnel all this time. This was the most important stage because the thieves had only one way out. As soon as Sebastián breaks through the wall, the other thieves take out their final weapon from the car's trunk. The power cannon, which Sebastián the engineer had built himself to break open the lockers. Its mechanics were very simple. A telescopic mechanism is fitted at the back of an iron pipe to adjust its length, providing rear support, while the front side operates hydraulically, gradually applying pressure on the locker until it breaks. Sebastián had made the power cannon so powerful that it could break a locker in just 7 seconds. But there were a total of 400 lockers in front of him, and Fernando had given Sebastián only 2 hours. Sebastián assembled the power cannon and started breaking the lockers. He didn't even have time to see what was inside the lockers, so the rest of the thieves started stuffing all the loot into sacks. Everything was going according to the thieves' plan. But just then, Argentina's special force, the Falcon Group, arrives. So Mario went to the first floor and started negotiating with them using the security guard's phone. But his only goal was to buy time so that Sebastián could break open all the lockers in the basement. The thieves were communicating with each other over walkie-talkies right in front of the police. But the thieves' walkie-talkies had a dial that could pick up nearby frequencies. But when Fernando turned that dial, he heard it. "I've got the one upstairs in my sights and I've got the one downstairs in my sights." This is what the Falcon Group members were saying to each other. Meaning, if the police gave the order to start the mission, then Beto and Mario, who were at the window, they were close, their game would have been saved, but the sun saw them, and then Mario goes to the first floor, takes out his phone and tells the Falcon Group, "Your commandos need to come down right now or I will start killing the bank employees one by one." Again, the police didn't know that the thieves only had toy guns, so the Falcon commandos came downstairs. However, the thieves thought that the snipers had also come down, but in reality, the snipers were still aiming at the thieves from... By now, 2 hours had passed and Sebastián had managed to break open only 142 out of 400 lockers, but it would take a little more time to erase all the evidence. That's why now, it was time for the stage pizza. The thieves started putting all the looted goods from the basement into the tunnel. On the other hand, Mario tells the police, "We are ready to surrender, but it will take a lot of time at the police station. It would be better if before we surrender, you bring us 5 pizzas and some soda." 2 more police officers fell into the thieves' trap and went to get the pizza. And by the time the police returned with the pizza, all the thieves had already reached the drain through the tunnel. The thieves had to get out of the city with the money as quickly as possible because the police could still catch up to them. That's why they had already prepared a motorboat inside the drain, loaded all the bags of money onto it, and were ready to escape. The thieves knew that the police would head in the direction where the water was flowing, that is, towards the river, so the thieves started going in the opposite direction, into the city. But here, the thieves faced different problems because right in the middle of the city, under the blazing sun and in front of everyone, how could they take the bags of money out of the manhole? To find a solution to this, the thieves met one day at the son's house, where the son's wife was also present. Seeing her there made the other thieves very angry, because it was a very secret mission, but since his wife already knew how big of a thief her husband was, the matter was dropped right there. However, the son had a van, and seeing it gave the thieves an idea, so they started modifying the van. The thieves make a very large hole right in the middle of this van. Later, they painted the van's windows black so that no one could see what was happening inside, and then they parked it right above the manhole in the middle of the lion. Gradually, the thieves managed to transfer the bags of money from the manhole into the van, and then all the thieves left the city sitting in that very van. On the other hand, since there was no communication from the thieves, the police stormed into the bank and started escorting all the bank employees out one by one. For the police, every single person was a suspect, and even after searching every inch of the bank, there was no trace of the thieves. All the police found were the toy guns left by the thieves, but because the thieves had broken in through the wall, there was a bit of dust in one corner of the basement. Because of this, the police became a little suspicious, so they moved the cover aside and discovered the tunnel. The police, they tried to escape into the drain through the tunnel. And just as the thieves had planned, after going down, the police headed towards the river, and the entire operation was being watched by the thieves on TV. They divided their share of the money and decided that from today onwards, they would never meet each other again, and all the thieves went their separate ways. They thought this was the end of the story, but now they were about to pay the price for a small mistake. Because just a few weeks after the robbery, when one of them opens his bag to take out his money, he finds that some of his money is missing. He just couldn't understand how it had happened. Could it be that someone had stolen his money, that is, a theft from the thief's own house? A robbery. In a panic, he asks his wife, and she replies that she was the one who took the money, just 34 bucks. As soon as he hears this, he yells at his wife because 34 bucks means 15 million rupees, and a heated argument breaks out between them. In anger, his wife leaves the house. Not to her parents' house, but straight to the police station to report how the theft happened. She tells the police everything, how her husband is involved in the theft, what his condition is, and how many people were involved. So, the police first arrested the sons, and using his phone, they tracked down the locations of the other thieves, and one by one, all the thieves ended up behind bars for years. But the story wasn't over yet, because the thieves were about to make their final move. You see, if anyone uses a deadly weapon while committing a crime, the punishment is much harsher. The thieves already knew this, which is why they used toy guns, so that if they got caught, their sentence would be lighter. That's why after robbing the bank, the thieves left the guns right there. And as a result, Fernando and Sebastián only got sentenced to 2 to 3 years, while the other thieves, who had already committed major crimes before, received just 6 to 8 years. But the thieves never really revealed exactly how much money they had stolen, which is why some of the money was never returned to the police. If you want to watch more videos like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.